All right, we are live on video. Stand by for audio. All right, good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So today, yes, once again, I have another new guest co-host for you. And this young lady has a very interesting background. And we're going to talk a little bit about some things that I'm not even going to mention in her bio. Because we just figured this out before we fired up the show today. But you guys know how much I love talking about healthy lifestyle balance. But before we get into that, your new guest co-host today, she is an expert in personal development. And we talk a lot about personal and professional development on this show. But it's not a life coach. She likes to clarify that. She's a businesswoman who discovered a roadmap of how to get in control of your life. And she truly walks her talk by generating pragmatic solutions for people who are freaking out, because we've all been there. And she blends personal experience with her extensive knowledge of neuroscience, there's your key word of the day, and human behavior to guide businesses and individuals to defeat the freak out and create their ideal life. So without further ado, the founder, creator of MaryShores.com, Mary Shores, welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott. It's so exciting to be here today.
I'm excited to be here. By the way, I love the green. Is that a pillow? Again, sorry, podcast listeners, we do have a video feed on YouTube, okay? But she's got this really bright green pillow, and you just can't miss it. I love it. So is that something you created, or did you find it?
It's subliminal.
Yes. See?
No, I found, I saw that on someone else's podcast, and I just loved the little subliminal messaging of the little pillow that said follow me or subscribe or like. And so I ordered a whole bunch of them.
See, I'm going to have to get one that says like follow, but then have the at Live the Fuel, and I'll have that subliminal messaging behind me.
You need to have someone embroider that in for you.
Well, I already have hats done, and I have a new batch of hats coming this week. I'm experimenting with new styles. So, and I already have custom mugs, and I already have my own stickers and vinyl decals. So,
yeah, very cool.
I apparently like marketing a little bit, and that's why Henry Kaminsky, who got us connected, shout out to Henry. And I've been on his show. He's been on my show. And he and I geek out about sales and marketing. So, but where are you located, by the way?
I am in Champaign, Illinois. So, you just picture this: cows and cornfields.
That's the way I grew up.
And big university town.
Okay. So are you like near the campus, or, I mean, like what university is there?
It's University of Illinois, so it's the top in the country, engineering, accounting, architecture, definitely a Big Ten school, but a very small town. So we have about only 60,000 people in this town, but typically another 30 to 40,000 students.
As a fellow Big Ten guy, I went to Penn State originally for engineering, so I can connect on that. And if you ever went to Penn State main campus in Pennsylvania, it is in the middle of nowhere. And everybody jokes around about it. Like, there was no college there, university. Apparently that's a higher standard. If there's no university there, there'd be very little of anything out there. So, but it's okay.
It's exactly the same as it is here.
I embrace the farms. I grew up on a dairy farm. So I was born on a dairy farm in New Jersey. So there's a fun little, connection for you. Now, granted, I don't play in the farming world anymore, but I definitely grew up around a lot of hard work and definitely a lot of corn, a lot of hay, a lot of alfalfa. Yeah, but good times. So what I have to ask, because I already was digging into your book a little bit and everything else. So again, ladies and gentlemen, MaryShores.com. She's the author of Conscious Communications, Harnessing the Power of Your Words. So why the book? Because I don't know that much about you yet. That's the point of this. We're going to get to know each other today.
I think my story, I started my first company when I was 24. So I was a CEO, like, before I even really learned how to be an adult. And I am in a really tough industry, which is debt collections. And
Wow.
So right away, when I was early on in my career, I actually didn't want to use the tactics that typical debt collections uses, because it's usually pretty negative. Like, there's a stigma to the industry, and it's actually well deserved. So I'm not going to sit here and defend the collections industry. But what I will say is that I decided to take a different tactic, because I had this big, extensive history of being a telemarketer, which meant I thought I knew all things. And I thought, I want to use a telemarketing sales approach to get people to pay their debt versus using these scare tactics. And so it actually failed miserably. And you would think, like, when I'm saying it, you would actually think
It
it would
sounded
work,
like a great
right?
idea. I was like,
It was a
wow.
brilliant idea. It failed. It failed. It failed for two main reasons. Number one, and I think you'll understand this because you've been in business for a while, but it failed first and foremost because of my competition. So even in the debt collections world, my competition is the other collectors, because most people who have a debt usually owe more than one company. And so because of something called negativity bias means that we're going to have a stronger reaction towards negative stimulus than we are towards positive stimulus. So you get really pissed off at things that piss you off, but you only get so happy at things that make you happy. And because of the other debt collectors using more like abusive tactics, they were winning out every time. And then the second reason it failed is because sales doesn't really address the true issue when it comes to debt, which is the shame and unworthiness that people feel in having a debt. And so actually, once I tapped into that, I started going a different way. I literally had this aha moment one day when I looked at the phone and I said, I want the next person who calls to be happier at the end of the call than they were at the beginning. And then, lo and behold, I gave my subconscious a command. And over the next couple of years, I developed a communication strategy that just really became very successful. Within the first year, my revenue grew 34%. My employee retention went through the roof, and I started going to other companies and training on this. And so why the book? That's a great question. And this story is getting kind of long for such a tight
No, I'm
question.
rolling with it. I'm loving it. Go.
So I really sort of had this inner desire. Once I started teaching these communication business workshops, I had this inner desire to let my inner Tony Robbins unleash the power within. And I secretly wanted to be a motivational speaker. So
it feels good, doesn't it? When you start thinking about it. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm very I love motivational content.
I do too. And I just got this, I really got juiced by inspiring other people. So when I was teaching them sort of my, when I started doing this, The Secret was really big. So I was saying that I was teaching them law of attraction without ever saying the words law of attraction. And so I was correlating the power of the words with this communication strategy. And so that sort of inner unleashing that power within to become a motivational speaker, I realized that, okay, so what really happened was I applied for this speaking gig and I got declined. And I was devastated because I really thought I was going to be speaking on this stage in Florida, and they said no. And I really wasn't used to being told no with pretty much anything. So I looked at the roster of speakers and I realized they were all published authors. So I thought, oh, well, if I'm going to have to be a speaker, then I'm going to have to publish a book. So there became my about 10-year journey of wanting to become an author. But I had a really big problem because I would say to anyone who would listen to me, I want to write a book, but I'm not a writer. And the thing about words, right, raise your hand, you've had that thought.
Oh yeah, I've been talking about writing a book for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I was 10 years in. And here's the thing, because you asked me why book, why words, all of these things. Well, the thing is that words are like a mirror to your subconscious programming. So when you hear me say the words, I want to write a book, it's like you can see that written on my soul. I've come into this life with this purpose to write this book, because obviously there's a desire to do so. But I have a big problem when the next words out of my mouth are, but I'm not a writer, because those words are also revealing something from my subconscious. And it's revealing a belief system that does not support the desire to write a book. And so something was going to have to change in order to ever make that book happen.
I'm loving what we're hitting on right now, because all this is literally me right now. Like, because first of all, for the video feed, again, I'm going to share the website, ladies and gentlemen, maryshores.com. You can see the book right on there. It's on Amazon, by the way. But it's funny that you're bringing all this up, right? Because when I was skimming over the book, I started thinking, now that you've said all this, it's just clicking even more, because every time I've had on a ghostwriter, another author on this show, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's hard in the beginning, but just embrace it, own it, tell yourself that you are an author." And we were talking about here is like you were actually basically holding yourself back because you kept saying you're not a writer. And I still say that from time to time. I still haven't broken through that unconscious programming in a negative way, and I'm still saying it, even though you'll appreciate this. I'm putting in small reps. I've now been published in 3 different issues of this magazine. What's that? Fall, winter, summer, and they just asked me to write for them again. So I hate writing.
What magazine is it?
It's called Network Magazine.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I gotta write that down.
They're actually based here in Pennsylvania, but it's very business oriented magazine. But it's important of, hey, you are the power of your network, right?
It's totally true.
And they're always looking for new content.
That's how I got on your show.
Yeah, see? So it's like, I have no problem going on other people's podcasts, inviting other people on my podcast. Apparently, I can write, even if it's a small article. Because they keep asking me to write now for more. I'm a huge health and fitness nut. So that's more of my content it's professionally related for the business world, but it's targeting the health and fitness side of it because, again, the show, people struggle to balance that. So right. I love sharing things that I've learned over the years through the writing, which is technically what's going to happen when I get around to writing the book, because for your quick backstory, that could be all the podcast, but I left the corporate world, farm kid, worked my way up in the corporate space, hated it, left in my 30s to go be a federal wildland firefighter out west and served as one of the elite hotshots out there. They just made a movie about us, and then came back and became an entrepreneur. So interesting shift. So everybody's like, you got to write a book about that.
It's fun to do all those different things. For sure. So, okay, I want to give you some additional information about your barrier belief on writing.
Yes. Let's
connect. Because you have gotten some advice in the past to start saying, I'm an author. Okay. Sure. That's not necessarily going to create the neural pathways. I mean, it could.
It has.
If you said it 2,500 times a day for 5 years, then we'll create a neural pathway to support that belief. Okay. But the belief that you're not a writer is stronger. So here's where I want to do a little bit of a reframe. Okay. So when I changed this belief, it was because, and this is very similar to your story, I signed up for a writer's workshop. So I made an investment in myself. I went to Omega Institute in New York, which I'm actually going to again here in a week. I can't wait because it's like my big happy place. And this writer's workshop was a teacher by the name of Cheryl Strayed. And Cheryl Strayed is a famous writer who has written the book called Wild, which eventually became a big movie starring Reese Witherspoon. So it was about her major actress, right? And Cheryl Strayed is a major author, right up there with, Elizabeth Gilbert. Her and Elizabeth Gilbert are besties. This was my first writing teacher. Okay. So
talk about leveling up and surrounding yourself with the right people.
Well, I didn't even know. So I'm the only person in the class who has absolutely no idea who Cheryl Strayed is. I literally show up for this class at Omega Institute, which is an amazing 501c3 retreat center in the Hudson Valley in New York, and it's just beautiful, pristine place. I highly recommend going there.
Oh, I know the Hudson Valley. I go up there I drive through that area probably every 3 months.
Yeah, so it's really beautiful. It's in Rhinebeck, New York, if that means anything to you. So anyway, all these other people that are taking this workshop, they're published authors. They might write for television shows. And here I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Mary Shores. I'm not a writer. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't even read books. I don't belong in this class. I'm totally criticizing myself even as I'm
That was your intro?
That was my intro. Wow. Now, this was several years ago. I've obviously come a long way. But here's the thing. I paid attention to that class. I invested in myself. And by the end of the week, I wrote this short story, which was about my daughter who passed away in 1993. It was
Wow.
about my son who's on the autism spectrum, who he's 18 now. I think he was about 13 at the time. And it was about my roller coaster life as a single mom and an entrepreneur. And also, I didn't say this, but my son is on the autism spectrum. It was really about like, how do you navigate life as a single mom with a child where there's really no rule book, because like
Yes.
parenting could be a whole nother show, right?
Oh
Well,
God, yeah.
parenting with someone on the autism spectrum really is it's a different thing.
I can't say that I fully understand what you go through, but I've done fundraising. I love charity work and not-for-profit work, and I've cycled through everything from MS to ALS to all forms of cancer fundraising, and I've definitely done stuff for autism, and actually Autism Speaks. So
Yeah. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
I love these organizations who are really trying to make a difference. And from if I tell people all the time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing this, like, just try and take a little bit of time out of your life. Here's your public service announcement. Just pick a charity, any charity, doesn't matter. The amount of growth you're going to get and the amount of exposure to learn about what that charity's doing, and more importantly, about the condition. I didn't even know what an autism spectrum was until I did the not-for-profit work. And then you
Mhm.
learn so much so quickly. It's so powerful. I just had to bring that up. I'm sure you can speak to that. So.
Well, absolutely. I'm trying to switch my view because I always feel like I'm looking in weird places.
I just occasionally from time to time teach myself to look into the camera.
Yeah,
If I'm
I
not, checking something out.
I need to make you at the top by the camera. Then I'm more, because I always look at you, but then it makes it look like I'm looking down. Okay. So anyway, here's what happened. So at the end of the week, when I read this story to this class, which was about 40 people, no one laughed at me. No one like told me that I wasn't a writer. As a matter of fact, it was completely the opposite, where all of the people in the class cried, stood in line to come and speak to me, to ask me like, hey, can I share your story in my newsletter or in my anthology book? I had people invite me because there was somebody that she did like a local kind of a TED Talk kind of a thing where
Yeah.
she had writers up for 20-minute talks. She invited me to come and speak at it in Miami. And so here's the point. And this is what I want you to do with your excerpts that you've had, these articles that you've had published.
Yeah.
That when my subconscious saw the evidence that it needed, okay, then it actually put me in alignment with the idea of being a writer. So you hear a lot of these like personal development people talking about the word alignment, but you don't hear a lot of meat behind that word. And
Okay.
so to me, when we talk about alignment, we need to talk about things like getting our thoughts, our words, our feelings, and our choices all moving in the same direction as the goal that we want. So for you, it's like book. Okay. So are your thoughts, your words, and your choices in alignment with writing that book? And so for me, it wasn't as easy as just like faking it with my words to make it happen. But when my brain saw the evidence, so when I got this feedback from the audience, which I'm sure you've gotten feedback from these articles, first of all, just the fact that they asked you to write another article is feedback enough, my friend. Okay. All right. All right. Take it from me. That's a huge
Yeah, I'm
compliment.
moving on to my fourth. He just emailed me actually yesterday. He's like, Scott, deadline's not till September 1st. He's like, are you cool? He's like, we want you back. I'm like,
that's huge.
Okay.
That is freaking huge. Like I would be jumping for joy if that happened to me right now.
I'm my own worst self-critic. I think you and I have that in common.
Everyone has that. Like, so here's the thing, that when my subconscious saw that evidence that it needed, that in fact, I did have something worthy to say, and I can actually put together a sentence, like, I went to grammar school, then my evidence thought it could then change my thoughts. All right. And then the thoughts then changed the way I felt about it. And the way I felt about it then changed my words, and it changed my actions. And within 7 months, I had a book deal with Hay House Publishing, who, by the way, was
huge.
the number one publisher that I wanted.
You're the third person I've heard say Hay House in the past probably 2 months that's been an author. They all said the same thing.
Could be a hint for you.
Wow.
So, I mean, here's the thing. you have also have the evidence that you need to change that belief system. So all you need to do is feed that seed more than you feed the seed of not being an author, because you're actually already a published author.
Technically, yes. Yeah.
Get you a business card published, like, or look, get you Scott Mulvaney
as featured in
There
Network
you
Magazine.
go.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. I love it.
It's
But
huge.
I love what we're talking about here, and actually, that's why I love Zoom. Do some screen sharing for the video peeps again. Again, books on Amazon, people, conscious communications. But you are correct. I've thought about the same thing. Like, I've been trying to get more into public speaking. I did 4 speaking events last year. I've got 2 lined up this year, and there is a sense of
Wait, I see your browsing history here. What do you got? Sexy Boss?
Yeah, you know, Sexy Boss.
No, I just think it's hilarious.
Oh, but she's been on the show. So,
oh, that's awesome.
yeah, I just aired her on Friday. That's her book. Her book is called Sexy Boss. So, Sexy Boss is Heather Havenwood. So if you like to be a very outspoken, girl power, like very successful female entrepreneurs, yeah, I got it. If you're interested, I'll get you connected.
Yeah, let's do it.
She's awesome. I see you guys vibe. Actually, the person I just had a podcast with this weekend, I just got her connected as well. I love connecting people. That's one of my, since launching the show in 2016, that's my new thing now is I'm like, every time I get a new guest host, I'm like, who can I connect them with? Because just from the podcasting world, I have an entire network now. Because this morning, as we're recording this, I aired episode 197. So I'm approaching already 200 shows online. And there's podcasts that have been around for 5 years and they only have 100. So, yeah, I don't know how to slow down. So it's the only thing that's probably fearful for me is like, man, if I actually pull this book thing out, it's on like Donkey Kong. I mean,
well, and you know what? And and I don't know about like that other advice that you were given, but like, I'm also not a traditionally, I didn't go to school for writing, but I mean, there's so much I learned about writing and content creation just in general. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, it really came through the speaking. And so a lot of the things that I write about now are like transcriptions from podcasts that I've been on. And, the more that I'm developing my voice as a speaker, the more content I'm developing for future books. And so it's a cycle that feeds. But for the audience, I don't want this to be an alienated thing about just writing, because what I really want you to think about is how often do you say that thing you want? Like, mm-hmm. I want to start a business, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to travel the world, or I want to sell my house, but then you followed up with the but excuse.
Yeah, the word but is definitely something like, see, as soon as you hear yourself say the word but, I've learned that over years. I have to catch myself. It's like, what? Why are you saying but? That should be like an action thought in your head. Like, as soon as you hear yourself say the word but, pause. So,
well, and understand that it is some sort of connection to a belief that you have that's going to hold you back. And so once you recognize that, like we both just recognize that we have that one in common, it's how are you going to change that belief? Because from what I understand of the way that our neural pathways work, if we have a belief, it's going to be a whole lot harder to create that action in our life if we have a belief system that isn't supporting it. And so, like understanding how to get around that, like taking a shortcut is going to get you to your goal a whole lot faster.
Yeah. And usually I geek out about this because I studied psychology, and I actually have a regular sports psychologist who comes on every single month. Shout out to Megan Cannon. And actually she was the one I aired this morning. And because I love mindset, I love the psychology component, because whether we're talking about health, business, or lifestyle, over the past almost 200 shows, I found that over the past year and a half, mindset comes up all the time. Psychology comes up all the time. And to your point, you just said it's a shortcut. But depending on people's programming, the shortcut sounds amazing. But if you are still heavily rooted in those beliefs, or that, I don't want to call everybody's past inner circles negative, but you know where I'm going with this, is that those decisions, those shortcuts get a lot easier when you've changed your surroundings and you've changed the people that you're with. For example, you changed your surroundings. You went to an event, surround yourself with like-minded people. They supported you, and boom, like you see this huge move forward with that short writing you did. That's
It's so
powerful.
true. And like what the way that I understand about how this works is, like we have these neurons, and our neurons are in our brain, and the neurons are connected to each other through synapses. And
Mhm.
these synapses are going to connect in all different kind of ways, because we have something like trillions of these
Mhm.
neurons, and the synapses can be connected in all different kind of connections, like a blueprint or a map. And so these are what builds a neural network. And so once you create a different pathway through the neural network, what happens is if you feed that one, just like a highway system, what happens to a bridge if you no longer maintain it? It's eventually going to crumble away and decay, and you're not maintaining it anymore. So you're not going to be able to use that. So once I created that seed, or I planted that new neuron in my brain that I could write, and then I started building pathways to that, I reached my ultimate. I mean, first of all, publishing with Hay House was a life dream come true, because I mean, one of the biggest influencers in my life in the past 2 decades has been Louise Hay. I
Mm.
mean, out of all the influencers, she is it for me.
That's powerful. And,
It,
and,
it
and I'm guessing, just because I'm hearing you and I'm like, there had to be like massive validation, just massive validation. That's what I'm hearing. The first thing I thought of when you started saying that was like validation for me anyway.
Right. I mean, and like not only that, but like what about the validation of, okay, so you reached that goal, you published that book. There was there was a lot more, there was like when I had to turn my first draft into the editor, and
Mhm.
like pulling my hair out. Oh my God, are they going to like cancel my book contract because this book sucks so bad? And they were like, this is one of the best first drafts we've ever seen. And
Wow.
then, then the book goes public, and you're sort of sweating it out, waiting for your first reviews. Well, if you put that screenshot up, you'll see I have 68 reviews, and they're all really
Nice.
great reviews. I mean, it's incredible. I have, uh, like in my editorial reviews, I have Regina Thomashower wrote one of my editorial reviews, and she's the best-selling author of the book Pussy. She's known as Mama Gina. And let
Huh.
me just give you a hint. If you are going to write a book and you name it something like Pussy, it's probably going to become a bestseller.
That's
Really,
ballsy. I mean,
really,
that's.
I know. That's pretty badass.
I mean, marketing. I don't think you have to do much marketing on that. The keywords, right? We talk about keywords in marketing all the time. Google. I think you pretty much nailed it with that word.
Right, right. She was totally a genius
Got
in her.
tons of 5 stars in here, girl.
I know. And like, but here's my point. Like, here I was like, okay, still looking for that validation. And, it's like, wow, the book reviews start coming in, and no one trashed me. And
Yeah.
my son, he's 17. He was even saying like, hey, you should probably prepare yourself because somebody's eventually going to trash this book. And you know what? It's been several months now. The book's been out since August. So it's been going up on a year,
Yeah.
and no one has trashed the book. So I am either very lucky or there's not enough people reading it yet.
I'm gonna add you. Oh, hold on. Sometimes Amazon adds too fast. So I have. Do you know that? Do you have an Amazon? Do you have an Amazon business account?
I have no idea.
Okay.
My
So
relationship with Amazon is interesting.
okay, is that another podcast?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's just so easy to buy,
It is. It is.
like it's
You just
just so
click.
easy. You just think about something, and then poof, 2 days later it shows up on your door.
Well, so check this out. I'm going to show you something. So when people, and ladies and gentlemen, I've never ever put an ad or a sponsor, anybody on this show. I believe in the show that much. I just pay for it myself. But Amazon lets you launch what's called an influencers page now. So like I already
Okay,
had an
this is
Amazon
cool.
account. So
I absolutely don't have this.
yeah, so I threw a banner on my site, which I've never done before, and I have banners now. But the banners all connect to my influencer page. So, for example, hold on a second. This is a fun lesson. We're teaching business and marketing now
I
for
know we're doing a
online.
webinar.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So if your banner actually freaking works, which I don't know what's going on, like my website's having a heart attack as I'm doing screen sharing. So anyway, the point is like you have an influencer page, and when you click on it, it'll take you to your influencer page. Now you can custom build and show any products that you have bought on your influencer page.
Oh, that's so
So
cool.
it's like, hey, as an influencer, these are the products that I love or books that I recommend.
I'm so glad you told me that, because I told you I just got back from Peru
Yeah.
and I want to put together a resource guide
Well, check this out. You are
for
now
like all
on
the
my influencer
I'm
page.
so like you just made my day in
See
such a
this?
huge way.
So here's the most recent books that I've added to my influencer page.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. So you can do this now. And then, blah, blah, blah. So the point is, I've added you because I love conscious. This whole conscious concept is just awesome. And so your getaway thing, I definitely want to make sure that got into the show because we talk a lot about healthy lifestyle. Because this literally came up on the podcast I aired this morning with Dr. Megan Cannon. And she had just gotten back when we recorded this live at lunch. Like I'll take my microphones and everything out. I just do it in public. It's awesome. I don't just hang out in the home studio. I believe in getting into it. So there's cars driving by and stuff, and we're eating at I don't know if you guys have Core Life out there.
No.
Okay, Core Life is like this ridiculously paleo themed healthy eatery. So I mean, literally on video, I'm drinking bone broth and eating my salad with double meat on it. But the point is that we're hanging out, we're talking, and we talked a lot about. She just got back from doing a Ragnar race. You ever hear of a Ragnar race?
I haven't.
It's a 200-mile relay.
Wow.
I did one when I was firefighting out west in 2011 in Arizona, and you basically have 24 hours to complete 200 miles with a 12-person team, and it's weird. So we geeked out about that. But then she talked about how the team captain was an entrepreneur. She had never met him before. He helped put the team together through mutual friends of hers. And she meets the guy, finds out the guy in the past year and a half had a 150-pound transformation. Like
Wow.
he was over 300 pounds. And when he finally put his health first, released 150 pounds of just, bad stuff out of his life physically. But now the guy's he signed up for an Ironman. He's doing Ragnar. Here he did a Tough Mudder. I'm just like, and we tied this together. And this is where I'm going with this for you, is that when you take care of your life, your spirit, your energy, everything gets better. Like he's a father and he's running a company. Do you mean to tell you don't think that now that he's putting his health first, that company's going to perform better? His employees are going to love him more. His family's going to connect better, right? I mean, so, and she said, oh yeah, he's talked about that. So we're trying to get him on the show because I want him to tell his story because people need to hear that when you put your health first, everything usually goes in the right direction. That's how I look at it. So is that what made you go on this little getaway?
No. No, but I couldn't agree with you more. And for multiple years, especially after my divorce, because my divorce was just like, I mean, that's the thing out of all the things that have happened to me traumatically in my life. My divorce was like the thing that I didn't think I was going to live through. And it was like a 2-year,
Oh,
like functioning catatonic event. And it really, like, I thought it was going to do me in. And I have to say that that's when I really found like getting in control of my health, and especially the gym. So I was a gym rat. That sort of started my 8-year journey of being a gym rat, where I was taking kickboxing classes. So I loved, like, here's the thing. Here's my little kickboxing story. So one night I was out with some friends at a bar for someone's birthday. And then like the dance music's playing, and like all my friends are bebopping around the dance floor. And I get up on the dance floor and I start doing some kickboxing moves. And there just happened to be a person that was a recruiter for UFC that was just at that particular bar that night. And he came up to me and he invited me to try out to be a female fighter.
competitive.
Yeah, like, and I played along for like 5 minutes, before I let him know that like this was all choreographed, and unless we were playing, like I could be a UFC fighter in, say, a situation where there was a Broadway musical like about it, and there was a certain song playing, and it was all choreographed. But what I did, like, I did a lot of research around that time, because, and especially this is something that I talk about in my book, that like one of the reasons we're sort of out of whack as a community, and like as our society grows, is because we are we are not taking care of our physical bodies. And that when we are not taking care of our physical bodies, we are not having a healthy balance of brain chemicals. So we're not having the right chemical makeup of like the serotonin, the dopamine, the vasopressin, the oxytocin, all of the things.
Don't forget the powerful impact of cortisol, right?
Right. Or yeah,
Your
I mean,
divorce, your cortisol levels were probably through the roof. The stress of that. Yeah.
yeah, the adrenaline, like also, being in living in a low level fight or flight all the time. So, what we don't realize is, even like, say you're not even going through a divorce, right?
Mhm.
But we have such a low level of fight or flight all the time. And that's why I talk about defeating the freak out, because what happens is we're so reactive. And the reason that we're so reactive is because we are in a constant state of notification hell. Like, I
Yeah.
guarantee you, when you and I get off this show together, we're going to go and our phone's going to have like 75 notifications. We're going to have 60 emails that came in and, 3 more voicemails of people that just want to get at us.
Yep.
And like, most of the time this is good things, but even when it's good news, it's still overwhelming to our nervous systems. And so like, we don't understand the value of our nervous system and having a healthy nervous system. I mean, I could geek out on that for a very long time. But my point is that I definitely discovered that power of like lifting weights. And I really, like, you know what? It made me feel like a badass. Like,
Yeah.
it literally made me feel like a complete badass, because when I first started going to like my weightlifting class, I couldn't lift very much, but I remember the day when I could carry in all my bags of groceries at once.
Yep.
Like,
It's freedom. It's a sense of freedom.
it was like, wow, my strength has really increased.
Mhm.
So now, like, I want to write a book called Undriven and Unraveled, because there's also this other journey when I started writing that my life was really at capacity already, as far as, and I know you talk a lot about balance. So I am not the poster child of a good example of balance.
No, but you're aware of it though.
I'm very aware of it. And so when we look at, when you ask me like the reasons for my trip, I had a lot of things that I lived through that were traumatic in my younger years. I've already mentioned that my first child passed away, and that was after a long 1.5 year battle with brain damage that she was born with.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of lot of trauma. And what I love to share about trauma is that trauma is not about the thing that happened to you. Okay. So whatever horrific thing, because we've all had some kind of trauma that has happened to us in our past. Okay. And I'm not here to judge or say like one person's trauma is worse or more severe than another, because trauma actually isn't about the event. It's about the way that it shows up in your present day. And so when we look at trauma, and when I really started getting serious about understanding that, part of my life being at capacity was a way of manifesting me still being in this trauma. Because if I'm busy all the time, I'm not necessarily working on the parts of me that I needed to work on. Now, granted, I had come a long way, and, like all of the practices in my book were able to, because I should have become a statistic. Like, I'll just be honest with you. I should be like a heroin queen.
From the few things I've heard from you, yeah, girl. I mean, like, when you just slid in 1992, I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Well,
and then you added in the divorce later. I was like, man, this girl's got to have a bulletproof mindset by now. Again, hinting at your point of trauma, right? Like, what did you learn from that? How did you overcome? How did you?
And like, I was in this documentary series about called. Oh, what was that called? I don't know. It was something like, it was called the Global Resilience Project. And she had chosen 50 people from around the world that she calls 50 thrivers, which are people that have overcome a lot of traumatic circumstances in their life, and they are now like thriving. Okay. So, but I really think that unraveling the traumas in your life, it's not a quick fix. I just wrote an article that I published this week that I called "I Failed My Date with Destiny," because like so many people, I think, go to these weekend workshops, and I'm certainly like this weekend workshop warrior, where it's like, go to Date with Destiny and have a transformation in a weekend. But you go to these events and they're wonderful, right? And
Yeah.
like everyone at the end of the event is all like, oh, I've changed my life. Like life will never be the same. And the thing is, like, you see that same person a month later and nothing has really changed for them, because what happens is they're riding high on the emotions of the event. You know, they're with like 5,000 of their new best friends and they're all like, you know, singing and dancing and having a great time. But true transformation happens in small pivots over a longer period of time. And like, you know, that guy that was, did that relay race, you know,
Yeah.
when you have his story on, you know, he might have had a moment of inspiration that led him to make some different choices, but it was those different choices over time that gave him the ultimate result, you know?
That's exactly why I want to get him on, because
Exactly.
in the past few months, all of a sudden I just started saying, every time I had it, exactly what you're talking about, all of a sudden, because I'm a huge gym guy too. I'm a CrossFit coach. I mean, I've been a ski race coach over the years. I've been a spinning coach, a cycling coach, you name it. I like to do it. And I want the putting in the reps part of his story, right? Because what you're talking about is you're putting in the necessary repetitions. Small changes over time build sustainable results. You can't, I mean, I've coached health in my free time too. Weight loss, I've helped work with, you know, weight loss transformations, physical fitness transformations, you know, and it's like, guys, like, you can't, yeah, you could probably create a lot of change in 30 days. But did you put the necessary work in to build it as a sustainable change? Like
Right.
a legit body transformation, I tell people, was more like 16 weeks, not 30 days. Yes, I could probably help you create some massive
Or
change.
how about the rest of your life?
Thank you. Right? Because I hate the word diet. I know hate's a strong word, but diet has gotten so bastardized over the past few years. I was like, guys, it is a bad 4-letter word, because psychologically, everybody who's read a magazine, seen the latest diet show on TV, whatever, it's short term, short term, short term, short term. There's no long term sustainable lifestyle shift that I'm seeing when you refer to something called a diet. So I don't like to, when people talk about, I do ketogenic training. So keto, paleo, blah, 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 blah. I call them lifestyles, not diets. And I'm sure that's what you got to make the changes over time. I'm going through it right now. I have the one sport I've never tried was swimming. So as we're recording this Saturday, I'm doing my first triathlon.
Oh my gosh, that's a great way to jump right into swimming.
And well, now I should have started. I signed up a year ago, but I didn't start getting the professional coaching lessons until maybe a month and a half ago. And my coach is like, his name is Scott too. He's like, Scott, you could have gave me a little more time. And I said, yeah. I was like, but I'm here now. Let's
do this.
Let's break down. My biggest thing is anxiety. He actually said, I'm 6'4", 195 pounds. He's like, long arms, long legs. He's like, once you figure this out, he's like, you're fine. You're built like a swimmer.
So both of my children, my son that's 17, he's 6'4", probably about 140 pounds.
Lean and mean.
Well, maybe he's got to 160 by now. And then the other one is 6'5.5".
Whoa.
And yeah, so I have these like tremendously large boys, and they're only a year apart. So
that's wild.
Yeah, I first of all, I just have this affinity for tall men in general. So it's only natural that I would have these two.
You just birth them. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm pretty tall. And I remember when I was pregnant with my older son, who's 6'5", I was in this small town picking up some paperwork for my business. And the manager was a Terminex office. So the people that do like the pest control. And the manager, he noticed that I was pregnant, and he comes out and he's like, oh, you're pregnant. You know, when are you due? And he's starting this really pleasant conversation with me. And then he goes, well, how tall is your husband? And I said, oh, you know, he's 6'2". And he goes, well, have you ever considered moving to St. Joe, because the football team needs you?
Oh my God.
I have never, like, this man was so obsessed with this small town football team that he was recruiting me, because he really was. Are you having a boy?
He was recruiting you based on your gene pool.
He was smart though, because these boys, I mean, my kids and my 6'4" son, he is very athletic and always moving, always. I just took him to his first Tony Robbins event over the weekend, and he walked on fire. And
Ah,
I'm so excited because, I mean, first of all, because there's no rites of passage anymore,
no.
and it was like, I felt like, and he had his 17th birthday during the event, and I felt like this is a really great rite of passage for him. And
Oh my
even
God. If
though,
I would have been given something like that, that's powerful.
yeah, because he did the whole firewalk thing, and I don't know, I'm like, I'm
No, I was
really
just at a Tony Robbins event 2 months ago, and not that event, but a different event. It was a multi-speaker event, like John C. Maxwell, Gary Vaynerchuk, Les Brown, Tony. It was a big event down in
wow, that's
Philadelphia.
a great lineup.
I know, right? I was like, what? Um,
Mary
but
Shores.
yeah, see,
I just
got
put it out
Mulvaney one
there.
day. But that's a great little side point you just kind of like casually threw in there, is that parenting. Like, I'm never going to be a parent. Like, I took care of that. My fiance and we're like, yeah, we're going to be the cool aunts and uncles. Some people are meant to be parents. I respect it. We're not. I'd rather be the cool, like, coach, uncle guy. You're cool. And then when you get annoying, I give you back. So, um, the point
Listen,
is,
I am a parent and I feel that way too. So I'm just being honest. A lot of people
thank
won't
you.
say that out loud.
Thank you. I mean, it is what it is. We like, hey,
It's a
listen,
lot of work,
it is.
big commitment.
And I tell people all the time, like, yeah, but you'd be amazing parents, and your gene pool, like, she's a doctor. I'm like, yeah. It's like, listen, the one advantage of us freeing up that time is I could create so much other positive change in the world in other ways, right? All the charity work, the podcasting, eventually writing the book.
It's the ripple
Speaking.
effect. It's so
Yeah.
important.
I mean, and honestly, you're proof. Parents can do it too. Hell, single parents can do it too. So I'm blown away by you. So that's what I'm saying. I got to get you hooked up with Heather Havenwood, man, because she also was talking about kickboxing on our podcast together. So,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, you girls are like feathers or whatever. I mean, that's gonna be funny. And she has her own podcast, so I think it's called like I Win or something like that. So,
I've got a pretty amazing flying jump kick and a flying side kick, but it's
okay.
all for show, because if anyone ever hit me, I'd roll into a ball and cry.
I grew up studying martial arts, not kickboxing, but I used to fight as a kid in kumite and tournaments, and I had some trophies and stuff. But it was good to learn. Back to the rite of passage, though. I was never brought to walk over hot coals. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how old is he?
He just turned 17 right during the event.
The mental shift. Okay, back to your synaptic pathways. The reprogramming that you just helped create in his mind at his age. Holy crap. The new synaptic pathways you helped establish. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of him. And we're also we're going to our family vacation next week to this back to Omega Institute, because like I said, that's my happy place.
That's
and
your family vacation?
Yeah, it is. So we go there every year for it's called Family Week, and he participates in this program called Wayfinders. And I don't know if you've heard of Wayfinders, being more from the East Coast, but they really teach this like personal development through this live action role-playing game. So they all get into these characters and they take all these improvisational classes, and it's just been amazing for his development. And actually the first year we went to this, I had read the reviews and I noticed that parents were saying how much this program had changed their child. Well, the reason I say this and like bring up the rites of passage, and my children were also both in Taekwondo and both became black belts, is because like as a single mom, and like I had my divorce was not just that my ex-husband no longer wanted to be my partner, but he wanted nothing to do with any of us. And he literally went from being like a family man to not wanting it anymore.
Wow.
Which left these two boys without a father. And so I really felt like I have to find that level of discipline for my children. And I really did find that first through Taekwondo, and then through Tony Robbins. So after you search Family Week.
So ladies and gentlemen, more reason why you want to watch the video. We're screen sharing on the Omega. It's actually eomega.org is their site. And I'll have this all put into our show notes like we always do.
This is, by the way, for anyone who is interested, this is where I also went to the writer's workshop. So
yeah, you said that, yeah.
Right. So this is where I went to the writer's workshop. My kids and I, these are just really great ways to
they even have scholarships.
Yeah, initiate your children into something great. So I think you'd probably have to Google Family Week on their search, not Google, but on their search button there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, unless
Or
it's listed under their getaways.
theme weeks right there. That's where Family Week
Oh,
is.
there we go.
But they have you can go there. They have personal development teachers, yoga. They even have like a survival guy where you can do like a survival retreat where he
See,
teaches
that's my thing.
you.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, because I was like thinking like you'd probably geek out on this survivalist dude.
Oh yeah, I mean, before I moved back from Colorado, like my last, because I get my CPR and everything renewed every year, and I purposely did it. Those 3 years of Arizona firefighting and then living in Colorado, I always did the outdoor version, more
Right.
survival focused. Because I was hiking when I was living in Colorado, I was hiking 14,000-foot peaks and stuff. It was like you're in Colorado and they have the most 14ers in the world. Like I'm gonna get all over that. So there's Family Week.
Yeah, Family Week's pretty incredible. And so like we started this conversation, you were asking me like why I went to Peru, and I started talking about trauma, and then I just like branched off into a million billion other things, which I
Yeah.
often do. But so after living, some outrageous things I've lived in my life, and I've done a lot of personal development work. One of the doctors that I love to listen to, his name is Dr. Joseph Tafur. And Dr. Joseph Tafur wrote this book called The Fellowship of the River. And what's unique about him is that he is an MD, but he is also a shaman. And he had one of the most unique ways of talking about trauma, where he was, he went through his medical training and became a medical doctor. And then he went through a shamanic training. And when you go through a shamanic training, you do this by taking massive amounts of ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine.
Yeah.
So,
Which is, and depending on who's listening, they may be like, what are you doing? Drugs? I'm like, well,
well,
here's the
so
thing. If you go to other cultures and other countries where it's okay, dude, you can't judge until you tried it, right?
some of the things that I've learned about the rainforest in general is that most of our pharmacology actually is synthesized versions of what is produced in the rainforest.
Oh God,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. But what really got my attention is Dr. Tafur talking about trauma. And when he was going through his shamanic training, you take this psychedelic brew called ayahuasca, and it's ayahuasca vine mixed with a trachuna leaves. So
Say
it's a
that three
tea.
times fast.
I know I can't even pronounce it correctly the first time. So they boil these plants together, and they do it in a very specific way for 24 hours. And the brew, um, well, I mean, if you're familiar with it, you know that it's like a psychedelic tea. So it
Yeah.
causes people to have certain visions or hallucinations.
Mhm.
And so what Dr. Tafur saw was he saw the DNA strand, and he saw these dragons attaching themselves to the DNA. And what's interesting about ayahuasca is that it connects the amygdala with the prefrontal cortex at the same time. So basically it's lighting up the activity in the amygdala, but so that means it's like fight or flight, like it's igniting your fears, it's bringing up your traumas from the past, but it's also activating the prefrontal cortex, which allows you to process the things that have happened to you.
Hmm.
So Dr. Tafur saw these traumas that have happened to people. He actually saw them as dragons that are embedding themselves onto the DNA. Now, this is fascinating to me because we know this as epigenetics.
Oh yeah,
Because
I've had a couple of epigenetics experts on.
So epigenetics is what we understand as when things mutate the gene expression of our DNA. It's like literally the real-time changing of our DNA. And so Dr. Tafur really was studying how traumas are changing the gene expression in our DNA and manifesting itself into disease. So into autoimmune, into fibromyalgia, into even things like migraine headaches and all of these ailments.
Oh, all disease is a manifestation of a root cause. The problem with Western medicine is that we're just treating a symptom. We're not actually treating the
Exactly.
root cause.
So here's what made me pull the trigger and go to Peru, because what he was explaining is that ayahuasca has the ability to remove the dragons from the DNA. So I almost think about it as like, if we're going through life and we're going through these traumas, we get those little sticky cockaburros stuck on us,
Oh yeah.
right? And they stick on us, and you know what, you can go through your
He's
development.
referring, ladies and gentlemen, those little spiky seeds that when you're out hiking, they just cling onto your clothing, and they always leave those little stupid little hairy thorns behind. And you're like sitting there with tweezers plucking it
And
all
there'd
out.
be like 1,000 of them.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's so annoying. And then, and if
Right.
you're in Colorado, there's more aggressive versions of those with sharper spikes, and they'll actually give you bike tire flats, and those are called goat heads. But
Oh no.
so there you go. But all annoying, all annoying.
So, but it's such a great metaphor for trauma, right? Because it's like things that stick onto you.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Dr. Tafour's book, he's talking about how ayahuasca can remove this from your DNA. And so that's why people go there for tremendous healing. And so there's reasons I went there. One of the reasons is that when I was a child, I wanted to be an anthropologist. I mean, that was just sort of like, so the study of indigenous cultures, the study of ancient cultures is something that just absolutely fascinates me, because we're just doing things. I mean, modern culture, it could not be more different than, like, say, the ancient Egyptians' way of life.
Yeah. Sure.
And I am just naturally drawn to that, but also for my own healing and my own like development. So I am not telling anyone to run out there and do that. I'm just like reporting that I had this happened to me. I did this experience. I just got back a few days ago, and I did 5 ceremonies while I was in Peru, and I had like a tremendous experience on this plant medicine.
Wow. I mean, one thing I like about it is that, listen, to the average person that's so outside of the norm, more often than not, you're like, oh, hell no, no way, etc. But that kind of brings us full circle back to earlier in the show, where those initial drastic changes are the scariest. Those are the hardest to get your brain to wrap around on, because our lizard brain, which is the ancient part of our, whatever makeup, is triggering the fight or flight, triggering that protection. Right? It's like, oh my God, that is so drastic and so crazy. I got to protect you. No. Like, there's a powerful book, I'm sure you probably read it, called The 5-Second Rule. And I need to get her on the show, but great author, great book. And she says, listen, pause for 5 seconds every time you make a decision.
Takes your brain offline long enough.
Just 5 seconds.
Well, and they know, like, for example, I was just watching a documentary this morning, but one of the things with PTSD, especially with people that are veterans and have PTSD, because in their military training, they're taught not to take that pause.
Right.
So it's like they have to react immediately. And then when they come home, they're first of all, they're traumatized with the PTSD, but they don't have that pause.
Yeah. Well, and again, you said it earlier, it's tied to cortisol, stress hormones, everything else. Like, their lives were, I mean, I can connect this back. I mean, we're going long on the show, but I can connect this back to firefighting. Like, you were hinting about the stress levels, the hormones, right? Hello, adrenal fatigue. I had no idea what adrenal fatigue. I was already an athlete.
Until I had it.
Yeah, I was an athlete. I'm doing, as a wildland firefighter, as a hot shot, you basically beat the snot out of yourself for 6 months during the summer, because that's when wildfires happen out west. You're doing 16-hour shifts on the fire line for 2 weeks straight before you get days off. And then you get 2 days off for health, R&R, rest and recovery. And then you're right back at it again. So my first rookie year, we did 1,900 hours in 6 months. The average 9 to 5 employee works 2,000 hours in a year, over a year. Like, if you work 50 weeks in a year with 2 weeks of paid vacation, 52 weeks, that's 2,000 hours. Do the math, 8 hours a day.
Right, so right.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was Mr. Adrenaline Junkie. Let's do this. And then go back the second year. Now, the second year, I'd already found, like, I said earlier, I'm doing a nutritional cleansing today, right? So I'm detoxing. I'm not eating any meals. I'm fasting. I'm allowing my body to catch up. And people are like, oh, you're already athletic. You're already fit. I'm like, I'm not doing it for weight loss. I'm doing it to allow my body to just catch up, because no matter how healthy I am, actually, as an athlete, I'm probably more susceptible, because I'm still consuming water and air, and all that stuff is tainted and polluted. You can only get so healthy. So we're constantly at war with the environment and ourselves.
Well,
And
and
that's the
I'll
biggest
tell
thing.
you what I learned about adrenal burnout, because I think that this is an epidemic happening to women that hit their 40s, especially if they have a high power career.
Oh
Like
yeah.
whether, like I'm seeing this a lot in doctors and female CEOs, when they hit that 20-year mark, they start getting the adrenal fatigue, and like it will take you out. So
Oh
like
God, yeah, you'll shut
for
down.
me, I was working out at the time. I was working out like 3 hours a day. That was my happy place. Like it might look like 1 hour of yoga, 1 hour weightlifting, and 1 hour of
It's good balance.
kickboxing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like every single day, but it was like a minimum 5 days a week. So I was very disciplined, and I also had a very disciplined diet. Well,
Mhm.
when adrenal fatigue hit and I didn't understand what was going on, all of a sudden, I mean, I would go to like throw a right hook or a punch or, uppercut or something. And it was literally feel like I was moving through water,
That's
and I couldn't
crazy.
understand. And I went to the doctor and I would tell her, I feel like I'm moving through water. Like everything just takes so much exertion. And she just looked at me and was like, well, you're getting older. And I just wanted to
Because they don't know.
no,
They-
she didn't. And she didn't do any testing on me. I finally like went to a holistic, what do you call him? Practitioner.
Practitioner. Yep.
I went to a holistic practitioner and he did some kind of muscle testing on me, which sounds really woo woo. And I'm still on the fence about it, to be honest. But, he said, well, you're at level 3 adrenal burnout. And that was his conclusion. And so he started putting me on like, some different supplements, and eventually like I started building myself back up. But now I have to be really careful at the way that I balance like exercise and the things that I do. And I'm also an extremophile like you. Like I used to say when I was younger that like you remember those old Mountain Dew commercials, like the old Do the
Do the
Dews?
do.
That
Yeah.
was me, only I didn't drink Mountain Dew ever.
I wouldn't drink that. That swill
You
was
could not
awful.
pay me
No.
to drink Mountain Dew.
And people still drink it. One of my
It's so
oldest friends,
disgusting.
one of my oldest friends since we were 16, lives down in Greenville, South Carolina. Will, if you're listening to this, I'm calling you out again. Stop drinking the dew. It's even worse
so
than it was
gross.
when we were 16.
It's you like your teeth are probably like
Oh,
paying the
just,
price. It's anyway,
yeah.
but okay. So back to this thing on ayahuasca. So like when you were talking about like my son creating a massive amount of neural pathways during that fire walk. Well, one of the things that I saw like when I was having my one of the ceremonies I was having was I saw thoughts turn into matter. And it was really, I'm just going to say, it was
That's
really
trippy.
very cool. It was so trippy. But like from a therapeutic sense, my body, I physically had a sensation, like a somatic release of years and years of trauma. And so even though I'm a successful person, even though I've like lived out a lot of my life's dreams, there's still ways that traumas have been affecting me in my present day. And I felt, I literally had like some kind of somatic release of these traumas. And so,
Wow.
another thing that happened was that before, I think this just comes along the territory of being entrepreneurial, is my mind was always going.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, and this has lasted now 3 weeks, there's just nothing going up there. It's actually quite amazing.
Sounds very zen.
It's very zen.
But you're still performing. Here's the thing, like somebody might hear this, like, wait a minute, there's nothing up there. Like, why would I want to go do that? Because that could shut down my business success, my family, blah, blah, blah. What I'm hearing from you is like, okay, it's not fully shut down. It's just that your brain has finally
I feel
quieted.
like it's going to allow me even more to step into my authentic self.
Yeah.
Just like allow me even to be even more powerfully the being that I am meant to be.
Hey, you'll appreciate this. I've never said this on this podcast. So listen in, fellow listeners and watchers on the YouTube world too. I never did a drug in my life. And then when I turned 30, I was actually, you ever hear of the MS 150? A lot of major cities have it for multiple sclerosis. It's a 150-mile road bike event. You raise money. Like people donate to you your ride.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for like 5 years. This is back early 2000s. The very first time I did it, so it's a 2-day event. High performers. I called my bike shop guy and he gets me. He's like, oh, I'll hook you up with my buddies. They're all ex-pros. And so it's like 10 of us all biking the 75 miles from Philadelphia to Ocean City, New Jersey to the ocean. Then you ride back. It's called the City to the Shore. Still going on. Massive event. Anyway, so he's like, well, we do 175 instead of 150. They give you an option to do a century on the very first day. So you do the first 100 miles. I never did a 100-mile bike ride in my life. We get down there, we walk into a high school gymnasium, and like the tractor trailer pulls up everybody's like travel bags. Then everybody in the gymnasium, you get your massages, and then you go to your hotel. Well, the one dude, I don't know if it was a lawyer, doctor, very successful professional, pulls out a tray of brownies. And yes, these were not legal brownies. And that was the first time I ever tried marijuana. Now, I'm not some weed head guy, but now I go out. I mean, I used to live in Colorado. I was living there when they made it legal. I go out every year to ski. I hit the herb, people. There you go. I put it out there. I'm now like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan talks about this podcast.
Well, let's just not put you on the level with Joe Rogan yet.
No, I know. Joe's a whole different level.
Well, I'll tell you what. I very first heard about ayahuasca on Joe Rogan.
See?
Because he was talking, I mean, it was years ago. And then I
sat out. Too. That was probably when I first heard about it.
I mean, so I started researching it then. I was a little bit intrigued. But I also just want to say I'm also not a druggie. So I've
never done a hard drug in my life.
In fact, I used to think that it was to my detriment because I felt like all the big authors had been either an alcoholic or a heroin addict.
Dear God.
And I was like, I don't have my recovery story to like propel me into this level of success.
You know, that's a very, very good point too, connecting back on the book thing. A lot of people's very successful books have always had some kind of traumatic component to it. But to be fair, I think it's more powerful to just talk about the transformation piece of it, whether it be traumatic.
That was just another, you know what, that was just another bullshit belief that I needed to get over in my head. Because the truth is that, I mean, first of all, I had that, but that's not the point. Like I had my traumas, but again, for whatever reason, and you know, I had just built a character of resilience and I had a tremendous bounce back factor. So I didn't go down the druggy route. Now, when I was younger, I mean, you know, there's things I did at a party or whatever, but I just never made a habit of anything. And so I'm not saying I'm 100% clean background, but I never had any addictions and no. Very, very lucky.
Actually, when I was younger, I used to I was the DD kid, right? Like, I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I wouldn't even drink a lot, hardly at all. I mean, I wasn't like the square. Remember that old term? I wasn't like square, but it's like, if somebody needed a DD. I think
you were, and just no one told you.
Yeah, it's probably, yeah. But I was like, actually, my fiance tells me all the time, she's just like, you don't have any game. I was like, I got game. And she's like,
I think this is what I want. I want not having game to be the in thing.
Right?
I want not having game to be the new game.
Yeah.
Like totally.
Being genuine. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
The reason why I have a fiance right now is because like she broke up with me for 3 months. Like, and then I had to win her back. And the biggest part of that personal development, I've said this on the show before. I stopped all my professional development. And for the next 3 months, dude, I'm buying like relationship books, online videos. I'm trying to hack where my head is at because I had a psychology background. I'm like, why is it you've taken every other risk, firefighting, skydiving, adrenaline junkies, blah, 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 but I never opened up my heart. So,
you know, okay.
That was a huge risk for me.
We have to do another show because
have to.
One of the things that I love to talk about is like the masculine and the feminine. And I will say that this whole Peru trip has been a massive heart opener for me. Mm. And last night I was out with some friends at a pub and, my buddy Jeff, his girlfriend just dumped him like 2 weeks ago. And so I was out with 3 guys, like 3 of my guy friends. And first of all, the male energy was just intoxicating to me. I was just loving it, right? And my buddy Jeff's like walking me back to my car and he's like, hey, you know, can we talk? And he's telling me like, oh, Mindy just broke up with me. And, you know, like I'm really confused right now. And he's like, but he looked at me and he was so genuine. And with just so much love in his eyes, he said, Mary, he said, you have been always the one constant in my life. And he said, just for years, he said, you were always there for me no matter what. And no one else have ever shown up for me the way you have.
Wow.
And he said, why? He goes, I want to know why. He goes, why do you do this? And I looked at him and I really think that because my heart was open, like I think in the past I would have answered his question differently, but I said to him, I said, Jeff, the moment I met you, I said, do you remember the moment we met? He said, yes. I said, the moment I met you and our eyes connected, I just felt something. And it was like an instant connection. I just felt a connection to you. And it was like, I just knew that I loved you, and
Mm.
I knew that I trusted you, and I knew that I respected you. And that was all that I needed. And
Wow.
so like, we've never had a romantic relationship. It's not
No.
even about that, but like my ability to say that to him, I think was really important. And like for me as like, you know, learning to open my heart more and be in that heart space, which everyone's talking about, you know, I think that like that's a great way to introduce that, to say like having no game is the new game.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the past, I probably would have like laughed that off and been like, oh, you're so cute.
Well,
Or
my attempt to have game or think that's what she needed was hurting me. Like I lasted a year and then, but I was still stuck living in Arizona and Colorado and my bachelorhood lifestyle, that I wasn't just, you know, you reached the 1 year mark and she just got to the point where it was just like, why am I even bothering? He's not opening, right? Like I'm
right.
not there. So she ended it. And
Because
I should have been able to just move right on, but something triggered, something didn't feel right. And through the self work, I've said this on the show before in certain episodes, especially talk about masculine and feminine energy. It was like, wait a minute. Did I even give us a real chance? Did I allow myself, once I studied it, I didn't know what the hell legit vulnerability was. I didn't know that you ladies find masculine vulnerability like intoxicating. Like that's the no game. One component of it. You might want to back it up. I don't
that'd
know.
be a great book title there, Scott.
What's that? The no game?
Yeah.
There we go. Let's take note of it.
You're the new masculine relationship expert.
Which I have no, if you talk to her, she'll be like, no, you are not the relationship guy. But I'm like, I did get you back. So, because
Well,
everybody,
it sounds like she was the smart lady for dumping your ass in the first place.
I actually
Because
thank her
that's
for
what
that.
yeah.
I needed that wake up call.
Yes,
Because
you did.
I prided myself. I mean, I was always talking about hot shot this and hot shot that and firefighting this, which was funny because like the first 6 months after I left that profession, every time I came back from the firefighting year, I didn't really talk a lot about it. My friends were like, wow, usually in your past, you always talked about, because I always love sharing experiences, but I kept that very hush hush. But then after a while, I eventually unlocked and I would talk about it more. And that became part of my story. And she's like, I don't give a shit about your story. She's like, who are you? Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't putting
At your core.
right. I wasn't putting all of myself out there. I wasn't forthcoming. I was still protecting myself. You know, don't let somebody in.
Yeah, because like I have this whole, and this is when I come on, we could talk about it again. But I
We're
have this
definitely doing
whole
another show. This
thing
is fun.
about like how you can't be both protecting yourself and show up as an available person at the same time.
Right.
But anyway, I'll stop there because I want to talk about it on another episode.
We're going to definitely do this on another show because I don't normally get into the
important.
relationship stuff too often, but this is important because actually I truly think this is happening for a reason, because over the past couple of weeks, masculine and feminine energy has come up a couple different times. And not to get into any extreme details, but good friends of mine are going through a divorce literally right now. So like one of my oldest best friends and another friend of mine that are married are now separating. Divorce papers are happening. Everything's happening literally right now. And I'm just like, and I've observed an imbalance of masculine and feminine during the past year. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. And I predicted it. So it is what it is. We could just have a whole masculine, feminine energy show. Because I think people do need to understand that. Because it sounds like you've struggled through it. I've struggled through it. And we both see people struggling through it. Because the modern man and the modern woman are confused. We don't know where we're supposed to be.
Well, and I feel like I've talked about it a lot, and I feel like I'm a perfect person to talk about it because, I mean, number one, I'm a female that grew up without a father, which makes a huge impact on that, which I can talk more about that, but also being in a very male-dominated industry, in a male-dominated role, which guess what it does? It develops the masculine. And when you develop the masculine, you're not doing the things that exude femininity to attract in the masculine. So
see,
it's
I gotta get you connected before you even come back on this show. I gotta do you a solid, and I gotta get you up on Heather Havenwood, because The Sexy Boss is right up your alley. That's not the name of her podcast. That's the name of her book. But you two are going to vibe so well. Because I just had on another woman by the name of Christine Michelle Hayes, and I just got her connected to Heather, and they're already figuring out when to come on the show.
They're already besties.
Well, they're going to become besties because that girl was just as saucy, and I loved it. It was awesome. So I love connecting people. Like if I could potentially get you a more powerful connection than what we've just done here today for our audience, that's all I can think about in my head right now. It's like getting
you're a total connector.
Yeah. So anyway, people tell me that anyway. It's like, if nothing else, like I have a podcast. Least I could do is just connect people from there. So, but listen, we've had a great show. You definitely need to find time. We'll schedule another show. My schedule is always online. I think, did you book this or did your assistant book this? I don't even know.
Yeah, probably Soraya.
Yeah. Is that how you say her name? I was not going to even try that. I was trying to read it. I'm like, could be Soraya? I don't know. So shout out to Soraya. But we did a lot of screen sharing today. I took a lot of notes. We'll have more show notes when we publish the episode. I always have my co-host close the show out a little bit, right? Like, just, there's been so much energy flowing through you, coming out. Is there anything you kind of want to sum it up with? Or is there any kind of big messaging right now that you're putting out outside the podcast world to your customers, your clients, whatever? It's like, I tell people all the time, like, listen, this is your chance to close the show out. If they forget everything else we said, like, what would you want to leave behind for the audience?
So I will leave behind like my favorite tagline, which is the core essence of my book, which is that everything you say, everything you do, every word that comes out of your mouth, every action you take, every choice you make in the thinnest sliced moments of life is either creating a deeper connection or it's driving a disconnection.
Wow, that's a mic dropper. Mine's mounted, so I'm gonna airdrop it. Oh wow, that's good, man. See, and I usually ask for quotes for the show notes, so that's gonna go up there as well.
There you go. There's your quote.
You are making our show's show notes process is so much easier. So thank you. Well, listen, stand by. I want to give you a proper goodbye off the air, ladies and gentlemen. Mary Shores. I mean, I think I've already hinted at it. Go to the influencer page linked to my website. Go check out her book. Okay. And I'm going to do one final screen share here for the YouTube feed. Remember, Mary Shores, SHORES.com. Check out Conscious Communications. Get the book, try it out. You might just learn a few things. So thanks for tuning in to another powerful Live the Fuel podcast show. We fuel your health, your business, your lifestyle. I think she definitely did that today. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, you too can live the fuel. We'll talk to you guys again soon. You're free of the pod, but the video I keep on just for fun, extra content for the YouTube until we close out. So thank you. And see, I hinted at it before we started the show. I never know where the show is going to go, and it's fun. So was not expecting for you and I to start talking about masculine and feminine energy at all.
Well, I'm usually talking about that at least once a day.
Okay.
But anyway, I love it. I want to come back on and talk because I could like really want to unpack that further, especially like while it's ripe, where you've just had this, this thing that's happened to you with your fiance, plus like the ages of my son. I mean, I just feel like with having a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old, it's like so front and center in my life, plus going through this like massive heart opening experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, that trip being so recent, I want to see like in a couple of weeks where everything still is at after that, right?
Well, and it's like also it's putting me in a place where like my last relationship that ended, and I, that's why I'm giving such kudos to your fiance for ending it, because I wish that I would have done that in my own last relationship, because I think that it could have caused the same kind of shift for that person.
But the reason why she did that is because her relationship before me was 8 or 9 years. So when that ended, she learned.
Yeah.
So,
well, according to Alison Armstrong, who's a masculine and feminine expert, the ticking time bomb is typically 9 months. So the fact that she gave you a year is longer. And it's so interesting because she puts it all in cycles. So like with the women, like it's usually around 3 months that they're sort of like, where is this going?
Yep.
And she said the reason for that is because like let's say, before modern times, it's around 3 months that it would typically take a female to get pregnant with being with the same partner and be past that time where she's likely to miscarry.
Yeah.
So that's why a woman around that 90-day mark is going to be asking questions like, where's this going?
And I remember studying that, like during my little self-work phase, they said, listen, your first 3, they call it the first 3 months is your honeymoon phase, right? It's like, everything's
right.
amazing, blah, blah, blah. But then like right around that 90-day mark, it's like, okay, the glow is subsiding. Who are we actually dealing with? And then if you're still going, that next 3 months, it's like, it's make or break. I mean, you're showing your true colors. You're starting to show your true colors more, which was probably me. So
yeah, if you're willing to, there's if you're willing to.
And I wasn't 100%. So it's like, why would a woman or man want to be in a relationship where you don't truly know everything about that person? And yeah, you're gonna keep learning things over the years. But
I tell my sons, especially my younger son, because my son that's on the autism spectrum, he has a completely different operating system. Like,
oh yeah,
he's just like, I love the way his doctor told him. He said, there are PCs in the world and there are Macs. He said, It's like if everyone else is a PC, you're a Mac.
Okay.
And then he looked at my son and he said, now which one's better? My son chose a Mac. He said a Mac is better. But it is. It's like he has a different operating system. Like it's just, it could not.
And there's a different level of intelligence there too.
Oh, he's highly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so. He's actually just been accepted into the University of Illinois College of Engineers.
Awesome.
So very proud of that. And he's highly, highly intelligent.
My nephew's just turned 18, just graduated high school. Smart kid. I always thought he was like he's not autistic, but or autism spectrum, but he's just like smart. I mean, he actually has a girlfriend right now. I'm really impressed too.
My son has a girlfriend too, but she's made it very clear it is only for the summer.
No, well, whole different conversation. Awesome. But I had no idea that high schools now have like a ROTC style program. So he's been in that. He was a Boy Scout. They got into this Air Force high school ROTC thing and found out they had some scholarships because, that side of our family doesn't have a lot of money. So he's like, okay, well, so he went in for the scholarship meeting and the colonel was so impressed with him. He's like, listen, most people don't know this, but I give away 1 full ride a year.
Wow.
Full ride. And so he's going to major in something to do with chemistry. And I was like, you go, boy. Like I have a bike waiting for him in my garage because I'm a huge cyclist. And he was smart. I told him, don't get a license and don't get a car. I wasted so much money at that age on cars. I paid my way through school, was working full time like you in my 20s, just go, go, go. And I'm like, don't. I was like, just pause that. Focus on your education.
A lot of them don't. Like my older son doesn't even have a license. He has no interest in getting one. My younger son, different story, by the way.
Yeah.
But I forget what I was even going to say about my younger son, but just like the whole thing, like them getting into this and also like them wanting to sort of be the boss of the house is a different energy. And they're like both larger than me because I'm like 5'10" and they're, 6'4" and above.
Yeah, but 5'10", so, my girl's 5'4". I mean, I got her by a foot. So yeah.
Well, it's a different level of intimidation when which by the way, this ex that I'm talking about, also a chemist.
Oh, interesting.
Moved to Colorado to become a pot scientist. I called him the Willy Wonka of the chocolate factory, of the marijuana chocolate factory.
Everybody's involved in that industry right now, and Colorado is doing quite well for themselves. So
That's right. Yeah, he was in charge of putting the THC in the chocolate at the chocolate factory.
Okay, well, I just got to try some of the legal oil that you can rub on yourself for pain. Like it doesn't have the THC, CBD. So yeah, we were just at a CrossFit competition last weekend. My fiance
did it work?
I enjoyed it. She didn't really notice much from it. So I told her, I was like, well, we'll just keep trying it. I mean, it's the first time using it. And plus then when we go to Colorado, we'll get the THC stuff and try that out.
Well, one thing I really enjoyed in my visits to Colorado was definitely like taking an edible and then going to the spa and getting a massage.
Oh yeah, you have to do that.
Yeah, it was like totally. Why have they been? I mean, it's one of those things that makes you wonder, like, why in the world have they made this illegal for us for so long? Because it's really a
whole other podcast. That's a whole podcast right there. I mean, just yeah.
All right. We have a monthly co-hosting series now.
We could. Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have a podcast. But then again, you've become a bit of an author. So you apparently like writing more than you realized. So
Well, I have been on 250 shows. And so the only
podcasts?
podcast, yeah. And I have been asked a bunch of times to host my own, but I feel like I already have enough full-time jobs. And
Oh, I have friends of mine. They're like, I would love to have a podcast, but like, I like people have been telling me they love my format where you just do the guest co-host thing. Because then it's like, I tell people like, I'm a marketing guy. Everybody who comes on the show, I want you to build online brand awareness. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm one of the few podcasts that actually double publishes the YouTube, because I know about the video benefits of that. So
See, but the fact that you understand marketing puts you in a position to be able to market the show and get it out there.
yeah.
I think Soraya would kill me because we're also about to pitch my second book. So we're looking for a publisher for the second book. So
You're not going back to the same publisher?
well, it's possible. I mean, they have first right of refusal, but I'm
Okay.
not sure it's a great fit because Hay House is a personal development and spiritual publisher, and my second book is definitely a business communication. So it's going to be
I would
called the
agree.
Communication Code. So I mean, it may not be the right fit for them, and like I'm totally cool with that. I'm just like so open to let the universe figure it out because they certainly figured it out for me the first time around. No complaints there.
Well, I tell people all the time, like the first year, I didn't have any repeat co-hosts. As soon as I rolled into the second year, I was like, I said, hey, if I now just say it to people, I'm like, dude, if we click, I'm like, go ahead and book another show. I don't care. I just let it. I didn't want to be overly constructed or like, oh, I can only have new people on the show. I have no problem people finding. There's now like podcast like recruiters. I don't know if you know about this. It's like there's people now emailing me like, oh, you should have this person on your show. You should have this person on your show. Like I'm literally going to set up another inbox and
Just
probably
for
have
your
it
agents.
just for those people because I'm like, dude, you're muddying my inbox. So I'm just going to set up like podcasting at livethefuel.com or something and just send them there because I
Yeah.
can't keep up. I'm like, guys,
I'm supposed to give a speech at Podcast Movement next year.
oh, that's happening right now.
Yeah, but I'm supposed to talk at it next year.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you're not even a podcaster.
I know.
But you've been on a lot
see,
of
like
podcasts.
one of the guys that is the organizer of that event, he has this thing called Podcast Academy, and it's an online course. So he had me, he interviewed me as a part of Podcast Academy.
Oh, you're who are you talking about? That's
Mark Deal.
okay. Maybe I didn't have my. There's a different podcast guy. There's so many. Well, I've spoken at two podcast conferences now. It's a smaller one than Podcast Movement. It's called Mid Atlantic Podcast Conference.
Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna write that down.
Well, since your business, Joe Pardo is the founder. His online tag is Super Joe Pardo. Big family guy, lives outside of Philadelphia, just over in New Jersey. And anyway, so I'll be back speaking there again this year. So that's a much smaller, still grassroots, moving its way up. But I'll be down to Podcast Movement actually this Wednesday, because my site is built on the podcast websites platform from the UK, which is co-founded by John Lee Dumas. So, and he's obviously a huge name in the podcast.
Yeah, I was on his show.
Yeah. The funny thing is I still haven't gone on his show yet. And everybody's like, you've been podcasting since 2016. Everybody gets on JLD's show. And I'm like,
so who would be your dream show to go on?
no, I just don't care.
You see, I have this, like, my dream show is Impact Theory.
Okay.
I love Impact Theory.
If I was in a weird mood for some reason, I'm like, it'd be cool to be on Joe's show. I don't know why.
Joe Rogan?
Yeah. Because he's such a weird cat. I want to see where the conversation goes,
So I had thought always that I would not ever go on Joe Rogan. And then now that I've gone to Peru and I've done the whole ayahuasca thing, and I even did Cambo. I did a Cambo cleanse. I don't know if you can see it, but I have these three dots. So the Cambo cleanse is where anyway, that's a whole nother, I'll just let you Google it. But it cleanses, it's a full body cleanse, kills parasites and cleans your liver and all this stuff. So I was like, I think I think I'm that much of a badass that now I could be on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, my fiance won't listen to my show because we live together. Because she loves Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan and the other show has two women that always sound like they're drunk and they're talking about people that they've effed. I mean, which I say that on my show.
Heard of this show.
It's guys that. So.
Huh. Yeah. So you listen to this show or your fiance does?
No, she does. I don't.
Oh,
Why would I listen to
okay.
that?
Like, who's the demographic for this show
No,
exactly?
all I do is in the car. By the way, I forgot to ask you this because I want to share that in the show notes. Is your book on Audible?
It is not.
Dude, come on.
That's, you know what? That is Hay House's call. I tell you that if you like consider Hay House publishing.
Well,
So, you know, I have this conversation a lot with people who want to become authors
you're missing
because,
out.
well, what you have to understand is that when you sign with the publishing company, they own the rights, not you.
Which
And
is why
so,
I might self-publish.
and you know what? Depending, like if you already have your
It's
own
expensive.
audience and you know, it's not expensive. It's
Well,
not expensive. You're going to spend just as much, trust me, you're going to spend just as much money whether you have a publisher or not. I mean, there are certain things that they're going to take care of. Like, for example, they're going to pay for the editing.
yeah.
You know, that's fine. They're going to pay for the book cover design. They're
Yeah,
going to
but
pay for
I can get a ghost editor
costs.
/ writer to do that stuff. And
As long as you're, you know, you're really taking that editing seriously, like just don't skimp out on that part of it
oh
because,
God, no. That's why I have a podcast. So
but see,
when I
here's
finish the book,
where,
I have to do an Audible book. I crush books on Audible. I don't have
right.
time to sit down and physically read. I love Audible.
I know Audible changed my life.
Yeah.
So listen, for you, because you already have a podcast, that means you already have an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I tell people, like for me, I really needed Hay House because I had when I started, I had no audience. I have a small-ish audience now, but my audience has been built through podcasting. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about podcasting because podcasting has literally changed my life.
I have people reach out to me almost every month saying, Scott, hey, if you don't mind me, it just happened the other day. He's like, hey, can you share with me your podcasting stats? I was like, listen, I'm no JLD. I was like, I'm in it for the long haul. And I was like, but the other piece, he's like, well, how do you grow your show? He's like, you're getting in a day what I get in a month. And I said, go on other shows.
Possibly
cross
because
pollinate.
you're good at it. You're good at what you're doing. I mean, like I'm just saying, you have the personality, you have the setup, you know how to make it a conversation. Because
I started with this. I dropped $1,000 on a soundboard record. I mean, even though Zoom records audio, like I originally started on Skype, and I'm like, screw the Skype. I was doing live stuff. Like I tell people, like, invest in what you care about.
Yeah. Well, and 1,000 isn't all that much. That's not, I mean, I have this like blue Yeti thing that I'm not
a fan.
I feel like it looks like a dildo. It kind of bugs
me. It does. It's
like if you just see it there in the corner of the screen, it's like, what is Mary doing?
Yeah. I mean, again, you don't have a show. That's fine. When I see podcasters using Yetis, all I say is at least you're not using a pair of iPhone headphones.
It's really that bad? Because I sound a lot better since getting this than, you know, but I think having that, like what I like about yours is it looks so freaking cool.
Well, this is a Heil PR40.
Okay.
This is a $300 microphone. So it's definitely, Yeti.
What kind of camera do you have?
I'm using the Logitech. Hold on. I'll just check my video
settings. I have the Razer.
I have the Logitech C930E. So I just upgraded to this probably 6 months ago to this camera.
Does it have a light on it?
Yeah, there's dual light C's on the
sides. Yeah. Cool.
So,
I have this Razer
and built-in speakers too. So
that's cool.
Yeah, but I mean I had this. So and I have a soundboard because actually if all this shuts down. That's why when I started the show and I said, hey, we're going live now on video, stand by for audio, I don't use the audio from Zoom.
Okay, you record that separately?
I have a different company. I have a Zoom H5 digital recorder. That's cool. That's what I travel with because the hack is this microphone, these cables, these are called XLR cables, XLR microphone. That is what the professional musicians, the professional newscasters use. Like, you can't get better sound quality. All my travel microphones that I travel with, they're all XLR microphones. Because
that's fascinating.
And the key word here is your microphone should be dynamic. See, the advantage of the Blue Yeti is you can switch that to like 3 different modes. So if you had 3 people around you, switch the setting and it'll pick up everybody around you. That's a condenser microphone.
Okay.
A dynamic. Like I used to worry about our coonhound in the next room, like howling his ass off.
Like when they mow the grass outside, because in my office here, I swear to God, every day at noon, they're out there mowing the grass or weed eating or something. And I know that this microphone is picking it up.
You won't get that with these.
That's good to know.
Because that's a condenser setting. You need what's called a dynamic mic, and you don't have to buy this. Honestly, hold on. This is one of the most. I think John Lee Dumas still promotes this. This is the most popular. It's just an Audio Technica.
Oh, I think I used to have that one.
ATR 2100.
I gave that to my son.
The advantage of this microphone is that you got the XLR jack, but it'll still support a USB jack. It comes with a USB cable too. So for people who are just doing stuff off of computers and software, great. And you can get it with or without the on-off switch. But I've got 3 of these. Then I've got the better microphone than this is the Shure SM58. That's nice. But then this is the Cadillac. So,
well, I am following all this, but unfortunately, Scott, I have to pee, or I'm going to pee my pants.
I'm with you actually. 'Cause I'm cleansing today, so I've been hydrating like crazy. So I'm testing the limits of our bladders. So,
all right. So nice.
The invite is open. Is great meeting you.
Yeah, and you're going to connect me with Heather. But if you ever want me, like, because I've been on 250 shows, so I could totally score you an amazing guest.
The networking thing is virtual. I literally, I never ask. Even though in sales, you always ask.
I always ask.
Well,
who can you connect me to? I'm desperate.
Well, that's my thing. That's why I said I like to give more than receive. Every co-host, I want to pick at least one person that I can get them connected with. That's my giving back to you as a guest co-host. Now, again, the invite's open. Like, I'm always looking to grow this show and grow the audience. And with my domains,
well, I'm feeling for you. I think you could be a great guest on Wellness Force Radio, because you guys have that wellness thing going on together. But I'm going to look through, because I have a spreadsheet of all the shows I've been on and whenever. And I'm kind of the same way. Like, I really thoroughly enjoy connecting people.
Yeah.
So I will.
Have you put all of them on your website?
No, because we're very behind on updating the website.
You need to do that. I'm about 2 shows behind, but it doesn't look as pretty, but I at least got all the shows I've been on up there, just so they're there. Because
so I have a rating system. I gave you a 10, but like, here's my sheet. And
look
so if the show is below a 7, we don't even ever mention that we were on the show.
Are you serious? Oh, wow.
No, okay. I mean, have you ever had a show where you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Oh, there's a friend of mine that lives not far from here who started his own podcast. And he's like, oh, you should come on the show. And I'm like, can I bring my microphones? Like, we're going to use my setup because I care about how I sound.
Right.
You clearly don't. So, and he's a marketing guy.
Tell it like it is. Well, did I sound okay with this?
No, yeah, you sounded fine. Well, your dildo's in your office, so it's a little bit easier. If it was
luckily
lawn
it didn't run out of batteries.
If it was lawn day, we might have had a problem.
Well, it was lawn day earlier, but it's like 6:00 now. So
see, we lucked out. So
that's at noon. All right, let's not pee ourselves.
Okay,
I'll shoot you somebody over.
And your assistant did it, but my schedule's right on the website. She can log right back in and just pick another time to come on and record. So I'm always within, for your benefit, I'm always within 1 to 2 weeks of release. I try not to over record so people end up being like 2 months later, but you'll get an email. I always send out a follow-up email. You'll get the links. I even send you the graphics that I use for Instagram and Facebook and YouTube that are actually properly fit. So
perfect.
All that stuff. So I take my shit seriously.
I gave you a 10.
Thank you. You should Instagram that. I'll be happy to repost it.
All right.
But anyway, have a great day. Enjoy your pee.
You will. You as well. Bye-bye.
Later.